Hey, y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Lisa McClain doesn't just put on a clinic on CNN here. She makes Wolf Blitzer wished he retired. Let's dive in.
I understand you disagree with what the Democratic lawmakers said in that video, telling troops to disobey illegal orders. It stems from the Nuremberg's defense. So I understand you have questions about that, right? The president, though, in response to that, said that that was sedition, punishable by death, and reposted a post about, hanging, because that's what George Washington would have done. But do you condemn threats of violence against your fellow members of Congress? Can you condemn that?
The threat, there should never be threats of violence, period, by anybody, by either side, right? That's why we live in America, right? Because we don't have to deal with issues like that. Threats of violence are never acceptable. Period. End of conversation. I think what the president was doing, though, was reminding you of the oath that you did take, and there are consequences. So you can have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. And that was the reminder, I think, in that. So everyone focus on I can say whatever I want. Yes, you can say whatever you want. But there are consequences for what you say. And I think that was the reminder he was giving those senators.
But what kind of message does it send to someone who may be unhinged, that what they did was sedition, punishable by death, and that they are traitors? And as I mentioned, several Democratic lawmakers have received, bomb threats after that post. I mean, are you willing to consider their point of view here, that someone who is unhinged could see that as, take that seriously, what the president put out?
Absolutely. We see that all the time. I can't tell you how many death threats I have because of the rhetoric that is out there, right? And again, acts of violence should always, always, always be condemned. Just ask the president, right? He had an attempt on his life twice, right? So that's not positive. But take a look at who started this. Those senators got online and said, hey, go ahead, disobey some orders if you don't agree with them. And if you think they're unlawful, talk about illegal orders. Talk about the problem with that, right? Talk about the issue that they started. The problem with the Democrats is they started it. And then when we come in and correct the truth with the other half of the truth, they lose their mind. Perhaps we should just all follow our oath of office and remember that we live in America, which is the best country that anyone can ever live in. So why shouldn't we celebrate that? We've got to stop this Trump derangement syndrome, because it really is not helping anybody.
Well, I just want to be precise, Congresswoman. Should members of the U.S. military or the intelligence community, for that matter, obey what are clearly illegal orders if in their mind what they're being told to do is something illegal? Should they still go ahead and follow those rules?
You're asking an enlisted person for their opinion on what they think is legal or illegal. That's a pretty slippery slope. Wouldn't you agree with that? So that's an interpretation. And what the president has done is not illegal, right? So I would say follow the chain of command. Follow your commander in chief. That's the oath that you took. Because if you leave everything up to interpretation, you could interpret things one way. I could interpret things another way. And that is a very dangerous situation to put this nation in.
Yeah, they keep pointing, though, that during the World War II, these Nazi officers were following the chain of command. They were obeying illegal orders, and they went ahead and slaughtered Jews during the Holocaust, which was clearly illegal. But they at Nuremberg, at the trials of these Nazi generals, they were saying they were simply following the orders. And as a result, in the U.S., they don't want military personnel to be doing that.
Right, and I think we're a long way from the Nuremberg trials and the slaughtering of Jews. If you want to talk about the slaughtering of Jews, we can have that conversation all the time, maybe for another time, with all the rhetoric that's on the other side of the aisle. However, I think what what we should do is follow the commander-in-chief, follow, and everything that Trump has done isn't illegal. So I don't even know why we're talking about this. If you don't agree with my situation, you don't get on public video and say, hey, you don't have to follow the orders if you don't agree with them. And hey, you can interpret them however you want to interpret them. That's extremely dangerous.
Lisa McClain is putting on an absolute clinic, reminding Wolf Blitzer that, and the rest of CNN, that you're circling the drain again. Okay, they are circling the drain again. Illegal orders? What are you talking about? Okay, let's back up for just a brief second before I even go into the actual sedition of 6 sitting members of both the Senate and the Congress. Let's back up for just a minute. Okay, President Trump, when he got elected the first time in 2016, did he throw Hillary Clinton and his political opponents in jail? No, he took no steps whatsoever. When Joe Biden got in office, what happened? He immediately directed the FBI to go after President Trump after Merrick Garland got in office. And what did Trump do once he took office for the second time, here in back in 2024, now 2025? He didn't do anything. He did not once take any steps whatsoever. And so, for the Democrats to project the way that they're doing, because they tried to throw people in prison, the Republicans have not. Hey, y'all, about half this country has high blood pressure. And with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, that means you are going to be sitting across from people that you love that are likely affected by it. Some might not know it, some might not talk about it, but that's why this is the perfect moment to take charge of your health or help someone else with theirs. So go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com and use my code BRAWL for 20% off. Try it risk-free for 2 weeks. And if your blood pressure doesn't come down, you're going to get a full refund. So there's nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers. So use code BRAWL for 20% off of your order today. And now we're in a situation talking about illegal orders and actual sedition? This is how insane one party has become in our entire political ecosystem. We now have mainstream media outlets talking about illegal orders? What on God's green earth are you talking about? I don't think we understand what this actually means. We now have an entire political party and their media wing in CNN basically giving the green light to say, yes, American soldiers, you don't have to follow your orders. That's what sedition looks like. This is the kind of rhetoric that says, hey, we're going to poke the bear without saying that we poked the bear. You know, Glenn Beck warned me of this. Okay, not personally, but back when I watched his show very religiously, he constantly warned about conservatives never being baited by these leftists. Do not be baited by Democrats. Do not be baited by this kind of rhetorical nonsense. Because they will use this as their casus belli against conservatives. They are waiting for the shoe to drop. They're trying to create it. And they can't really get properly called out for it. At least not on their own shows. Lisa McClain is indeed putting on a clinic. She's not being incendiary. She is just reminding them how ridiculous they actually sound without upping the ante, which is what you're supposed to do. But we're now in a situation where we're talking about illegal orders. Like that's an actual thing that occurs. There are bad orders. For instance, I'm going to use another Georgia example. Not too far from where I live is a battlefield called Pickett's Mill. The reason this battlefield is preserved is not because it was a massive conflict compared to something like Kennesaw Mountain or Gettysburg, but it was a conflict of about 15,000 versus about 12,000. And the Confederates took up a position against, right above a major fall in the terrain, to which the Union troops would have had to go into a gulch, come up with their heads poked out, and bang. The Union refused to say, hey, we might want to outflank or we might want to dig in. There's no point in attacking this position. It is a literal suicide charge. But the Union general said, no, you need to attack the opponent. They're over there. Go get them. And the Union commanders just kind of looked all at each other and just went, okay, orders are orders. If you had disobeyed them, you would have been tried for treason and likely lined up against a wall. Then they put a little cigarette in your mouth and say fire. This isn't about orders. This isn't about the illegality of certain actions. This is about upping the rhetoric against American soldiers and trying to bait conservatives into saying, you are committing sedition, which is true. Guys like Mark Kelly have literally crossed the line and talked about seditious things in order to get American soldiers and the American media all whipped up into a frenzy. Well, it's not working on the military side, and I don't think it's working on the conservative side. But it's working on the leftist side. This sort of rhetoric begets more of this rhetoric. It's got to be stopped, and the only way to properly stop it is to remind them, you are being hysterical. Actions speak louder than words, and so far, the Trump administration has taken no actions against these people. His rhetoric in reaction to sedition, I'm sorry, I'm going to wait for actual actions to occur before I start clutching my pearls and waving a bloody shirt. This is what the left wants. This is what they keep sowing. Don't fall for it. It is sedition. It deserves to be called out at every single level. But that's the line. That's the line that we have in the sand. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.